What's your first memory of what you wanted to be when you grew up? Well, with summertime fast approaching, my kids will spend their days going to some of the places they've read about and all the things they want to do. Summertime for me meant holding summer school for the kids in my neighborhood. Yeah, it was fun. Don't look at me like that. We went on field trips and we even had recess. But the best part about it was I had a yardstick about this long in case they got out of hand. I know what you're thinking now. I probably always knew that I wanted to be a teacher. Actually, I never wanted to be a teacher. I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I knew that I didn't want to be poor. I was always that person that could listen beyond the words that people would speak. I could get you to tell me things that you dare not tell anyone else. I had this keen way of getting people to see things in themselves that they never thought was there. And I also enjoyed it because I would do anything I could to help anyone. So as I got a little older, I started to think that maybe I would be a counselor, more specifically a psychologist. And I remember telling my mom, I think I'll be a psychologist one day. And she looked at me and she said, no, you're not doing that. You won't make any money. Well, mother knows best, I thought. So I decided that I would, go about my life trying to find my thing. And I tried a few things, but I'll just tell you, basketball wasn't it. I scored only 2 points. I was in 7th grade, and I scored only 2 points the whole season. So that was a dead giveaway that I should probably look somewhere else. And then I remember one day, our guidance counselor came into the classroom and she said, the band needs students who'd like to join the band. Well, I love music. I mean, everything from the Boston Symphony to, now I like that, Jay-Z, anything. Earth, Wind, and Fire, all of those things. Al Green, that was my mom's favorite. I figured this could work for me. So I went in and I decided to join the band. Well, it was absolute chaos when I walked in. There were all types of horrible noises. I don't know how he considered that music, Mr. Brown, that is. And the only thing I remember was him saying, if you guys get really serious about this could get you a scholarship to college. That caught my attention. So, I spent my summers, like I said, with the kids teaching, but I also did a lot of reading. And I knew a lot about what I wanted to do because I had seen it in books. And I remember thinking, a scholarship for college, this is going to be my way to figure out or do whatever it is I finally figure out that I'm going to do. And I don't know exactly when it happened, but at some point I decided I would become a judge. So of course I went back to tell my mom, and this one worked for her. She really liked it, so much so that she told all of her friends, this is my daughter Shanequa, and one day she's going to be a judge. So being a judge was my story, and I was sticking to it. I, continued with music all throughout high school, went on to make all-state band, the highest band in our state, and earned a scholarship to Florida A&M University, where I was a member of the Marching 100. And I want to tell you my whole college experience, but I'm going to fast forward to the summer right before my junior year. I was actually preparing to take the LSAT and realized that at that time, no law school would allow me to work my first year. I didn't have a plan B, so I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. So I did what any confused graduate would do. I got a job, and a few years later, I went back to grad school. Well, once in grad school, I had this one professor that taught me organizational behavior. I created a job for myself. I made myself his research assistant. So I wrote my own job description, and my job description said that I would do the research, I would take notes for him, and observe when he would facilitate team sessions or any type of OD intervention with organizations. And one day, my job description changed, unbeknownst to me. We were actually working with a group, and he said to me, he couldn't say Shanequa, so he called me Nico. He said, Nico, I'm not feeling well, you're going to have to facilitate this group. So a little bit of me was like, if anybody can do this, it's me. And I guess that's the part where I didn't write it in my job description, but it was etched in my heart and in my purpose, all other duties as assigned. This was one of those. So I got through the experience, and it was phenomenal. In fact, it was one of the most amazing moments of my life. And it felt really good. It felt very natural. And afterwards, I remember Dr. McCartney saying to me, "Are you sure you've never done this before?" And I looked at him with this humble but proud smile on my face, and I said, "Never." And I went on to have more experiences like that, and graduated with my MBA, and decided that I would take a little bit of turn in my starting career to follow this path of training and development at the time, and follow human resource development. Well, remember that little girl that was holding summer school? While I didn't know what I wanted to be, I always knew who I wanted to be. So this was starting to feel right for me. I'm ready now to get a job in this field that I love, but no one would hire me. They wanted more experience. They wanted, all the things we look for in a resume, and I didn't have that. So in frustration, I went back to Dr. McCartney and I said, "Listen, you got me all excited about a career and nobody will hire me." He said, "Well, I didn't hire you either." And I said, "You're right." He said, "Start your own firm." So I did. I started my own consulting firm, and I even got clients. I had 2 that actually paid me. And within 6 months, I got this thought in my head that I was going to fail, that it wasn't going to work. So I told myself this really profound story of you're a practitioner, and a practitioner stays in an organization because that's how you keep your relevance. You bought it too. So the truth is, I got scared, and I went back out to find another job. This time, some of the same organizations that didn't hire me, they were ready to hire me now with only 6 months experience, right? And I got on the carousel of success, and I quickly climbed the proverbial ladder of success. I went on to serve in several leadership positions. I earned my doctorate in organizational leadership, and I helped countless leaders and organizations achieve exponential impact. And there was this moment where I started to think about all the things I said to leaders that I worked with, and I started to have this moment of introspect, and I asked myself, how deep are you really going? You always say to every person you work with, you can only take your team as deep as you're willing to go yourself. And I realized at that moment that I needed to go deeper. I realized that I needed to go beyond all of the accomplishments, all of the recognitions, and even the greatest things that I had achieved. So now I'm at this crossroad. Do I continue on this perfectly path that I know will allow me to achieve all the things that I want to do? Remember, I love this career. Or do I follow my heart and create something that I believe but I've never seen before? And it was in that moment that I realized my true strength. Because while I was thinking it through, I felt stuck at some points. But this helped me to see that I could and would never be stuck, because the way in or out was always in me. So while I had become so successful by accolades and all of these things, I had also become so determined to find a path out of poverty that I became defined by what everyone and everything else said I could be or should be, even to the point of wearing jeans to give a presentation. You caught that, didn't you? That I'd forgotten to listen to the most important person in the conversation. Or was she even in the conversation at all? That's me. And I experienced at that point what I call a leadershift. So now I was secure in owning and claiming my own desires. I became habitual about identifying those limiting beliefs that can sometimes creep in and tell me what I can't do when I already know that I can, because I have and I will continue. I became very intentional about where I placed my focus, because I know that whatever I expanded on, whatever I focused on, it expanded. And while you're probably thinking my next thing was I was fearless, I'm not fearless. In fact, I speak to fear every single day, because I am committed to moving forward in my truth and with the courage that only can take me where I need to go, because courage goes where confidence dares not. So this was the moment when I realized that I am who I always was. It was John F. Kennedy that said, "The only reason to give a speech is if that speech is going to change the world." I've been giving speeches and talks and coaching and development all of my life. And I realized that it was time for me to stop giving the speech and live the speech. So I'll ask you, what speech will you live with your life that will change the world? Thank you.